Hello, and welcome to another edition of CTS BizTalk. I hope everyone's 2025 is kicking off well. So today we have a very special guest. His name is Michael Moran, who is a partner with American Commercial Bank and Trust. Michael, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, we try to have fun, right?
Yeah.
So Michael and I have known each other well over a decade. We met in a networking thing, I want to say 13, 14 years ago or something like that. And we've kept in touch over the years. Our paths just recently crossed again, and we reconnected. And we're just touching base and just talking about the good old days and what the future holds for both of us. And we had a great conversation, and we're going to get into that. But today's topic is going to be a little less techy. It's protecting your business accounts and threats. So before we get into the juice, Michael, tell us about yourself, the bank, what you guys do, and where do you guys really shine?
Well, Mike Moran, I started in banking in about 35 years ago, June. So here in Chicago. So I've earned a lot of these gray hairs a little bit. Been with a number of different banks. Some of the old timers will remember NBD, Bank One, Park National, American Chartered, which had a couple of mergers, and now American Commercial Bank, which is largely a reincarnation of the old American Chartered Bank. Those that remember it, most of the people here are the same people. It's back to get to know your banker. Get things done quickly, no bureaucracy. It's a lot of fun, and we're seeing a lot of our old clients from the old shop come back. So it's a lot of fun.
That is awesome. And you're based out of Schaumburg, correct?
I'm in Schaumburg. Yep.
Okay.
We have offices downtown in Lisle, and we have our headquarters actually is in Ottawa, Illinois, but we have a lot of operations out there. So we cover a lot of ground.
Good. So awesome footprint for anyone who's looking for any kind of specialized or even basic commercial and business banking. I mean, all the people I've talked to who also know Michael, I mean, he's definitely the way to go, and he can make magic happen and good stuff. So thank you. And then we'll share your information. So when Michael and I connected last week, we're just talking, having fun, reconnecting, and he was talking about some stuff that kind of falls into my realm. I'm a huge cybersecurity person, and I realized that when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting an organization, the assets, the intellectual property, making sure that business continues, you're not hit with ransomware or some kind of attack, that cybersecurity isn't just a technology thing, and that there's ways that business can protect themselves, especially with their bank accounts. And I mean, let's call it how it is, their money, which is, I think, one of the most important things to an organization. And I said, you know what, Michael, let's just get on camera. Let's have some fun with this thing, and let's share what you know, and the goods and the bads and stuff like that. So, you know, Michael, I want to turn this to you, and let's go through that. What should organizations be doing from a banking perspective to protect that number one asset?
Okay. I'm going to start at the high end here, kind of in the clouds, and then work down into the weeds a little bit. Something to think about is the fraud. I just looked it up the other day. This is a $21 billion problem in the U.S. For last year, according to the government. And it's one of those things where it used to be the fraudsters aimed at the Fortune 500 and the big companies, and most of those guys have buttoned down their systems using a lot of the techniques we'll talk about later. And then those fraudsters went down to that middle market tier and started attacking them. And now most of those companies have a lot of these protections in place. And so now the fraudsters are they go to the easiest place to go, right? And so now they're going to the small companies. A lot of small companies keep a fair amount of money in their checking account. And if they're not protected, that money's at risk. So it's really important that it's just not, oh, I'm too small, they're not coming after me. Probably not. if
Yeah.
you're worried about if you can afford to lose the money in your checking account, God bless you.
Yeah,
Most people
right.
can't. So
I'm not one of those people.
I would say it's really become something that a business owner is. It's just like insurance and a lot of the other things that you review on a regular basis. You got to be looking at your protections, both from a cyber standpoint as well as some outside of cyber as well.
Yeah.
So there's really three different categories where money to think about. One is check fraud. It's still a huge been and always is and always probably always will be a big problem. There's a lot of issues with paper checks that can be frauded. ACH fraud, another way money comes out, and wire fraud. So we can talk about all three of those actually. The check fraud is kind of funny. I always talk about a story from Frank Abagnale Jr. Catch Me If You Can. Movie
great
with
movie.
Leonardo DiCaprio. He depicted him, but he wrote a book, and in that book he writes about a Argentinian businessman in Miami who gets a $20 parking ticket on his rental car, returns it, goes back to Argentina. He gets an envelope for he puts 22 American dollars in the envelope, sends it back to Miami. The clerk in Miami says, "Oh, $2 overpayment." Writes a check for $2 off the bank account of the city of Miami back to the guy in Argentina. The guy alters the check to say $1.4 million, deposits the check, and it goes back and it clears because the city of Miami has that much money in their account. And it's a non-extradition country. He gets away with it, all because they didn't have positive pay at that time. Pretty certain they do now. So what is positive pay? Positive pay is basically where, if you think about it, when you write a check, for $100 to pay your, whoever, the bank is just checking to make sure that the $100 is in your account. That's it.
Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, the banking system is clearing, millions and millions of checks every day. Mm-hmm. They're not like, it's not a human looking at these things. It's pretty much all automated. What the banks have set up now is a way for you to basically give the information of not only who the check number, the payee, and the dollar amount. You can now take that and upload that information to the bank system. And now when that check comes in, it's going to make sure that they match up, that check number 100 to ABC Company for $1,000 matches. And if it doesn't match, it kicks it out and sends you, the account owner, an email saying, we've got a check that doesn't match. And it's up to you to say, yes, it's okay, it's not okay. Oftentimes, there are times where people forget to upload a check and say, oh, yeah, it's okay to pay that one. But there are occasions where a fraudster gets a hold of it, and instead of paying ABC Company, it's paying Joe Smith or God knows who. And so you can say, no, don't pay that check. Or and so and there is the upside is it's a huge protection, right? You got a lot of small businesses have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account. They can afford to lose that. And so there's a small cost that most banks will charge, $50-ish plus or minus a little bit for the service a month. I look at it as cheap insurance for not losing that $100,000.
Oh, absolutely.
And usually most places you can kind of do it on a weekly basis. You just upload your check file and do that. So it's really, really important to do that. There are other ways to do it. So if you're really small and you're really like, I can't do that, you could. There's some places that have what's called reverse positive pay. Reverse positive pay basically says the bank sends me every morning a list of the checks that hit, and it's up to me to basically go in there and look at them and make sure that they match what I wrote. It can work, but the problem is most people go on vacation, get sick, have car accidents, God knows what, right? And relying on somebody in your organization to do that every morning is fraught with error. Sooner or later, it's going to get missed, and it just leaves a hole. So not my highest recommendation, but could be a toe in the water, so to speak, to the regular positive pay. And if it's a really small account, let's say it's an account for real estate, something, it doesn't have ton of money, but you still don't want to lose it. what some people do is there's something called check block. You can say, hey, I don't write checks. I ACH everybody and occasionally write a check to someone. So what you could do is put a check block on your account, which is a lot cheaper, usually like, $20 or less. Just so any check that hits your operating account gets bounced. If you want, and then if you want to write a check, you internally transfer money to a petty cash account that has check writing privileges, and then write the check off of that. That way, you have a tiny little amount in that account, so you just minimize your loss.
So you're really minimizing that exposure there. Yeah, got it. Okay.
So those are 3 different methods. The first is by far the best. The deposit pay, reverse positive pay, and what I call check block are 3 really good ways to check, with check fraud to reduce that exposure. It happens all the time. I can tell you, I get calls from clients so often about, check. It used to be more. Now that we've got most of our clients on positive pay, it's less. The checks come in, they just bounce. It's getting to be more routine. But for those that we haven't got on it yet, it's still an issue.
So you still have a lot of your clients still writing checks or printing checks and signing them and putting them in the mail.
Yep. Check volumes are down, but still a major payment method. And so everyone still takes checks. Either you get them, and now people don't come to the bank as often to deposit them. They usually either have a scanner, or a lot of them are using their cell phone to scan them. Even our commercial clients use, if they're not getting a whole lot of checks, they say, I'll just use my phone.
Yeah.
Okay. That works. That works.
Yeah. So I still get a lot of checks from our clients. I would say still about 40-50% of our clients will pay via check, which that's their process. So
I mean, it's inertia, right? You've been doing this for decades, and people just don't want to stop it. Even though ACH is a safer method, but not foolproof by any stretch. I mean, I had a client with just to transition to ACH a little bit here. ACH is, people, you have to remember with ACH, you either originate the ACH and send money, or originate ACH and pull money, right?
Okay. Yep.
Vice versa, someone else originates and pulls from you or sends to you. It's all based, and the banks are the ones that hand out those credentials to originate ACHs in the system, and the bank kind of makes sure that they have a responsible client and all that, because there's some liability in both parts there. So, but you have to check your account on a regular basis. There's something called Reg E, which is basically a consumer protection. That when you have a consumer account to Frank, right, not CTS, Frank has Reg E rights, meaning that 2 months from the date of the statement, and you see something on your statement that you don't like, you can call and get it reversed, and then they have it adjudicated, and it goes through a special process. Businesses don't have that. Businesses are not consumers. They are held to a threshold of, you're not an individual, you're a company, you should know better. You got to be looking at your account and take care of it. If someone writes a check and it goes out of your account and you don't notice it for a month, or even a few days in some cases, that money's already gone. And the bank just is the processor, but we don't know that it was a fraud check until you tell us. So it's very important to be on top of it. Same thing with ACH. I had a client ways back who had a fraudster debiting his account for $5,000, and he's one of these guys that kind of reconciles his checkbook once a month or kind of thing. He didn't recognize it for like 3 weeks. $5,000 every day for 3 weeks.
That's real money. That's real money gone. Yeah.
It adds up. So it's really important to be watching your account on a regular basis. Also with ACH, you can do, there's a couple of different things kind of along positive pay lines. You can do basically an ACH positive pay. Where you say the only ACHs I will accept hitting my account are from, say, ComEd and my steel supplier or whoever. You have an authorized list that is accepted. Everything else gets rejected. So that's something that I think is worth having. The other thing is, if you don't have anybody doing ACHs to you, you should do ACH block altogether, kind of like check block, ACH block. Nobody can hit it. You can still send originate ACHs out, but nobody can come and debit your account.
What's the cost on something like that to put that?
Those are usually, I mean, it can range, from $10 to $30 a month, or kind of those kind of ranges.
Nominal fee and great insurance policy,
Yeah, I say, it's an insurance. Can look at it as insurance versus losing all the money of your checking account. If it's sadly, and I kind of hate doing it, but it's the cost of doing business these days. And the fraudsters are coming from everywhere, as you will attest. It could be next door, or it could be in Russia, or some continent over, name your continent, right? And we never seem to catch these guys. Although about a week ago, I saw in the Wall Street Journal, we caught some guy in Canada, but it seems so rare that we catch these bad guys, right? Because they're hidden behind all the screens and whatnot, and borders, etc. So, which that's a whole nother session, I think, because it makes me mad that these guys most of these guys get away with it. Yeah. So, but that's kind of the ACH side of things. And again, it's very important just to watch, to watch it. The second thing and last thing is wires, right? And wires can go out. There's really two big things, right? And the first one you take care of, right? We've always worried about you log into your banking system, and then someone takes over your computer, and that's where CTS helps you. So I'm going to let you do another whole episode on that one. One thing we did to basically take care of that one is we always recommend dual authentication on wires. So we used to allow wires on the fly, where you could go to your wire, put in who it's going to, hit send, and we don't do that anymore. Now you have to create a template, and then we recommend another person sends the template. Okay. Now those are done in the permissions part of the online banking, and so it's one computer kind of creating the template, another computer sending it. It would take the hacker, taking over two computers. Not impossible, but a lot less likely. Yeah. So that's the best, considered the best practice. And of course, the other wire thing has nothing. Is more to do with a fraudster sending the CFO an email, purportedly from the CEO, and this money's got to go out today. And we've all heard that, but these fraudsters, they do 100 of these, and they only need one person to
all you need
screw
one.
Up.
That's it. And it's payday for these guys. Yeah, that's all you need.
So never ever send out money based on just an email. Always double check with some other method. Text message is a good way.
Whatever. Something.
Some other way of doing it, because we just see that constantly. And the banks are getting better at kind of noticing some of these fraudulent accounts, and shutting them down, but not usually until a bunch of money gets through. Yeah. And I don't want it to be any of my clients' money, and I don't want it to be anybody's money. So it's real important that we get this stuff too. I honestly think that positive pay and some of these things will eventually become standard. They kind of are standard for companies already.
Almost mandatory.
We haven't got to everybody yet. And so it's real important that these things get put in place. And it's really frustrating how this cat and mouse games goes back and forth with everybody. And we're working so hard to stop these guys, but it gets tougher and tougher. I do think we are making progress, though, little by little. Yeah.
Your whole story of a CFO wiring money. I wish I didn't have that many stories on it. But we acquired a client last year, or maybe 2023, where if you don't have the proper stuff in place, and monitoring your Microsoft 365, who's reading emails. The forensics came back that they were reading the emails of the CEO, the CFO, and accounting team, accounts payable, and they were watching for months without being detected. Who do they talk to? Who are the vendors? So after a couple months, they were able to send that message, and it looked so real. $700,000 wire out the door, and by the time you realize, wait a second, what just happened? It's gone, and it's
right. Oh yeah,
and
yeah. The average I read once, the average from original break hack to when they actually perpetrate the fraudulent email is like 200 days.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
it's crazy.
7 months almost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how patient they are, and they wait till an emotional moment, right? They try to get the emotions going. It's a big project everyone's been working on. And then the CEO goes off on some trip and is unavailable because he's on safari in Africa.
And they know that he's leaving for 2 weeks. Yeah.
And he purportedly sends an email. I just negotiated a discount of 10%. That's millions for us, but we got to send them the down payment, $700,000 down payment today to make it happen. And oh gosh, it's horrible. It happens now. I think, like you said, we know most people have done it, but people get emotionally charged. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of they say the same thing in sales, right? People buy things when they're feeling pain, right, or getting emotional. They want to buy something. Same thing happens with this. Our company's been doing phishing tests, which I'm sure you've been promoting to all your clients for years. We've been doing it for probably about 15 years, and I've gotten pretty good at spotting them. But I think twice I've gotten charged. Once was when. We just sold our old bank to another bank, and the chairman. We got a email from the chairman of the other bank, that was buying us literally days after it was announced. And of course, I clicked on it, not going through my normal protocol because it was a little bit more, emotional. So I think it's important for all of us to think about our emotional state as we go through the day, and am I doing something important here? Slow down, think about it for a second. And the same way, some of us, I think, will type, we get a tough email, we send a response. Sometimes I'll send it to myself, walk away, and come back an hour later and read it just to make sure that it's right? That we're being professional and saying the right things, because it's easy when you're emotionally charged to not say the right thing or do the right thing.
Correct.
So
that's an awesome point, because these guys, once they're watching, they know not only when you're on vacation and what your patterns are, they also know your busy time. And so we do security awareness training. We try to have all of our clients do it. Almost 90% of all successful hacks is because of human error. I can put all the firewalls and you can put positive pay, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a person. And the malicious bad guys, they know that during, say February 1 to April 15th, accountants are super crazy busy. They're exhausted. They're emotional. They haven't seen their families. They're working weekends. And that's when they're going to start hitting these guys. And they know it. And so, we've had a couple accounting clients hey, ease up on the security awareness training for those months. Like, no. Now's the time that you want to be doing that, because that's when the human is most vulnerable of making that mistake or error. So that is interesting. I wanted to mention, so I have conversations with tons of business owners, and one of the things that they said is, well, how could they ACH and pull money out of my account? I have to sign a form and, say that I agree to have money being pulled. And, I would love to hear your take on it, but what I always tell other business owners and clients is, if you send out a check, right, anybody in the whole world, you could assume the whole world has your company name, your routing number, and then your checking account number. It is now officially out in the open. So talk to me about where you're trying to push more people to maybe use less checks. Is that best practice? And doing ACH, so that stuff is just not out there for someone to snatch and then do an inappropriate ACH pull.
Yes. I definitely, it's cheaper to send to ACH. It's generally safer, not perfect, but safer. And so we definitely suggest that our clients do more ACH than check. But with ACH, you have to actually go out and ask your client for their bank information.
Yeah.
And so there is some upfront work. So typically, if it's someone you're going to be paying on a regular basis as a regular vendor, that's probably a great candidate to say, hey, we'd rather just send the money straight from our account to your account, so there's no ambiguity. So there's no chance for a mailman, bad guy, theft. We've read the stories about mailmen getting robbed at gunpoint, right? And give me the bag, because you check an envelope, you can tell if there's a check inside.
Of course,
9 times out of 10. So yeah, definitely pushing that. But most companies are creatures of habit, and they move. The wheels of change move sometimes slow until something really bad happens and kind of forces them into it. But so we essentially are nudging our clients to do it more ACH and so forth. And of course, with ACH, you got to make sure you get your client sends you the information, often via email. Must call them back from the number, not on the email, but on the number to be correct.
Yes.
And say, Bob, this is the information I've gotten. You bank at XYZ Bank, the last 4 digits, last 4 over the account, or and have him say, make sure that he just doesn't go, make sure he double checks and tells you. So once you get that set up, there's a lot of work up front. Once you get that set up, that's going to be a very safe transaction, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get that email that says, "Oh, we're changing banks," happens. On average, a company will change banks every 7 years.
Okay.
Now, some do it every other year, and some do it every 30 years, but on average, it's every 7 years. So it's a lot of your clients are changing banks this year. It's just going to happen. So when you get that email saying we've changed banks, now send it to this. Again, you must call and verify.
And not the phone number. I'm glad you said that, because I've read stories. Not the phone number in the signature file, because that could be bogus. Yes, the number is who you're going to call to verify.
The number to be accurate. Yes, that you've called before. It's in your Rolodex that you've used 100 times or whatever. But, or if you have to Google a name, you can do that. Although be careful. We actually had, I worked at a bank where people actually created fake websites, and people would call, go in and call the wrong, get the wrong number because they went to the wrong website, and frauds happen. So you just be particularly, it's not usually with smaller companies. Usually that's with bigger companies, but that does happen. And then, and I mean, there's these guys are really good. And there's even Positive Pay is, I'll say 99.9% effective, but we had a case where I heard of a case where a client of mine gave their vendor a check, mailed a check. It got intercepted in the mail. The fraudster took it. It was an Illinois company. They took it to Indiana, went online to the Indiana Secretary of State, created a company name with the same name that was on the check, got articles of incorporation and a tax ID number, sent it to a bank to open an account in that name to deposit the check. And of course, now
it's going to go through
the check number, the payee, and the dollar amount have not changed. So Positive Pay can't catch that particular item. So that's where the banks, and that's where they say, banks are really tough. It's really hard to open an account these days, because banks are really watching out, because that's where the bank has some liability. You open an account for a fraudster and the first check is a fraudulent check. There's some liability. So banks are getting a little tougher on opening new accounts, but part of that cat and mouse game going back and forth. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about Positive Pay earlier, I'm like, how would you get around that? I mean, that's someone being very creative and just, I don't know. They got creative and they got a way around it. That's interesting. Huh.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's getting tougher, but like I said, banks are aware of that and are starting to be very cautious about opening new accounts. We're very fortunate. Every account I open, I've already talked to the ongner, usually face to face in their office, so that's easy. The mega banks have a tougher problem. They have these you're going to open an account online, and it opens them up to this type of fraud, because the fraudsters don't want to physically go to an office where they might be on camera.
Correct.
And those kind of things. And so the whole online environment allows for a lot of this stuff to happen. So we are beneficiaries of it makes it a little easier for a commercial bank like ours that's smaller, and we know all of our clients on a first name basis.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and the other thing that I think is key is I'm assuming you guys use it. I don't know, maybe you do, but emailing between each other. I don't know. Emails should be encrypted. If you guys have a bank that does provide it, maybe you guys have an online portal so the communication is not going on the wide open internet. That's another huge thing. Because there are people, everyone thinks in the whole world that email is secure. It is absolutely not secure. And people are sitting there watching the traffic. This is what they do. So,
we actually have we do have a secure server. So if I'm asking for sensitive information of any sort, I attach the secure server link in my, that they can go to and make sure that they're sending information to us. And in a protected, safe way. You're absolutely right. It is crazy. Or use their own, if they want to use their own secure. I have people that send it using their secure server and give me access to it. That's fine too. Probably even a better way in general, because they're more, that's the system they know and are comfortable with, and that's fine. But it's better than just sending stuff straight over the line. Especially when we open accounts, we need a lot of very sensitive information. And so we have people that, it has to go through a secure server, or in some cases I'll go pick them up, or some of the information we'll just have a phone call and they can give it to us over the phone. That's a lot safer too.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that too. Well, whatever way, but just sending like all the, or I've said some guys that will send some stuff via email and some stuff via text, some stuff via phone call.
Break it up.
At least,
heck yeah.
At least it's not all the keys to the kingdom in one place, right?
Correct.
So I highly encourage that as well. Just there's just too much out there that. But once we get some of this stuff set up, we're usually in pretty good shape, because once people on Positive Pay and they have ACH, Positive Pay and all those kind of things, we're starting to see those companies have very few problems. So versus the ones that think they can go without it. It's not a case of if I get fraud. It's now a case of when they get to you. Because they're just going down the list of sooner or later your name comes up and they they'll burn you. It's not, that's unfortunate. Let me tell you, it's not fun talking to people like that. I mean, it's just it's painful, because it could have been prevented, and they just say, I can go without it, right? I can go without that. I can go without cyber insurance. I don't need that. I know that's really expensive now. Now, with cyber insurance, I think there's a lot of the companies that do the insuring make sure that you have like 12 protocols in place, right?
It absolutely. So we get involved on the cyber insurance perspective, where the questionnaires come to our clients, and that'll determine what your rate is, or your rate, your increase of the premium, what have you. And the more controls you have in place, the less risk, therefore the lower premiums. And we were engaged with a client where we saw them about like a 7 or 8% lower cyber insurance premium, and the cybersecurity solutions and the stack that we put in place was less than that, or was less than the savings. So they're saving money and they're protecting the organization, and that's at the end of the day. I mean, this is an ongoing battle, like you said, what was it, 22 billion? These guys out there, that one example was Canada, but we got a lot of bad actors in North Korea, Vietnam, and Russia, where all this traffic comes from. They have no incentive to stop, and it is super lucrative. And like you said, you just need 1 out of 100, and it's payday. So,
yep.
The more barriers you can put in place, absolutely the better.
I'm going to add one more thing. All the bad actors aren't outside your company either. I've had over my 30 some odd years, I'll say almost every year, I've gotten one call from a client saying, "Oh my God, my most trusted employee, I just found out they're stealing from me.
Yeah.
They stole all my miles. They created an extra Visa card. I have 20 Visa cards. I created a 21st. They created a fraudulent vendor. They did whatever." And it's been hundreds of thousands, or even in some cases millions of dollars they've stolen over years. And largely it's because the owner trusted them so much that they abdicated their duty as an owner to this person and just let them do everything. And that's fraught with danger. I say there's a lot of things you can do. And between you and your CPA, you could come up with a laundry list. But I usually give my clients, start with 2 items and then build from there. The first is make sure the bank statement comes to you directly. If it comes in the mail, make sure you open it and look at it. If it comes, or online, you log in and take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is, pick one item on that bank statement, just one item, and go ask somebody a question about it. What is this, $1,500 to XYZ company? I'm not familiar with that. Oh yeah, boss, remember we bought whatever, that piece of equipment or software or whatever. Oh, great. 2 things happen. One, you probably learn a little bit more about your company, because most companies, the owner doesn't know everything. And 2, the accounting team now knows that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And if they know you're paying attention, they're a lot less likely to, add that fraudulent vendor or do whatever, put their hand in the cookie jar in any bad way. So those 2 things, that's just do those 2 things to start. There's a lot of other good things that you could do, but those are an easy and quick implementation.
Yeah, no, that's good. Internal fraud. I just learned something. I never would have thought about that, but yes.
Oh, happens all the time. I mean, I just say it's very common, because when you think about it, the owner has risked everything to build the business, right? They usually put their last penny in to start the business. It was like go make it or go broke. Some go broke, right? Most of the owners we know now are the ones that have become successful, and now they got some money in the bank. They've given themselves some raises. Now they're making oftentimes a lot more money than their trusted employee. And an trusted employee with access to the financials knows that. And oftentimes it's an avenue for jealousy, or this is unfair. I've been helping build this business too, even though they didn't take the initial risk and jump, and they're not an owner, and they feel like they feel entitled. And so they say, I'm just going to start doing this. And it's sad, but it happens. But there are ways, just like positive pay and the other things, there's ways to prevent it. If they know you're paying attention, or someone's paying attention. If it's not you, it could be someone else that you trust to do that. But they got to know that people are watching.
They do. And you need to hire quality people. I'm not sure if you heard the story, but there, 2024 was just like yesterday. There was someone sending basically fraudulent invoices to Facebook and Google, and they were small. Google, they're printed money, Google and Facebook, right? And it was an invoice here for like 17,000 or 20,000. Basically, it comes in, accounts payable is like, yeah, looks legit. This guy made crazy money, and it wasn't for like I want to say it was a year and a half to 2 years. Google the article if you want to see the details. But yeah, I mean, he walked away with millions of dollars, I believe, until he got caught. A year and a half, 2 years later. So
these companies weren't approving invoices, huh?
No, like, that looks like a legit invoice. All right, fine, okay. And then, you have internally at Facebook and Google, you have that process, and everyone's like, yeah, it looks legit. Yeah, that looks legit. You have a couple people signed up. Next thing you know, money's going out the door.
Right.
And, yeah, scary stuff, both internal, external, however you want to cut it. But, businesses need to take action to protect their assets, their bank accounts, their systems, intellectual everything. So,
right. It's a good point. I mean, in that case, they probably already do business with Google, right? And so it was one of 20 invoices or that month, and it just slipped in with the rest of them, and they didn't even notice that it was it's just a different division of Google with a different address, a different bank account, right? And
approved vendor list sounds good. Yeah, good job. Here's your money, right? Yeah.
Same thing with my business owner who had 20 Visa cards for a salesman. The 21st one, he's signing checks to Visa. He doesn't even think about one more.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's important to slow down and have someone reconcile those accounts, especially, it's a big account. You should reconcile, make sure that, it's all right. It costs a little bit more money to do that, but it can save you a lot in the end. Again, it's good insurance.
Yep.
Our CPA friends are really good at setting up some of those processes. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So
good stuff. Well, this has been awesome. If people have additional questions or have banking questions or needs, what's the best way for them to get hold of you? Obviously, we're going to post, contact information, what have you, but what is the best way?
I'm at American Commercial Bank, as you said. You can call me 773-213-7969 or email me at mmoran, MMORAN at acbandt.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully we gave some people some good knowledge nuggets, is what I like to call it, and they can better protect themselves and their businesses. So thanks everyone for watching. And of course, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And Michael, thank you again and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.